What's up everyone, I'm Baron Corvo, and this is going to be my tier list video for Pokemon Type Wild. Now if you don't know, I just finished the frame data for the game, and you can check that out in Discord that I made for it, which I will link in the description below. Now before we jump into things, I wanted to let you all know, I'm recording this live over at twitch.tv/Baron Corvo, so please check me out there. I'd really appreciate the support. Now, without further ado, let's jump right into things. Now, I decided that the way I want to order this is to, or rather, the way I want to place everybody is to do it from worst to best, so that we can kind of have, you know, a bit of suspense going on. But as you can see, there's not a lot of characters, there's not a whole ton to go over, so this video might be kind of short, or I might go in depth with absolutely everything about each character, and it could be really long. So let's jump right into it. Now, worst character in the game. That's not a fun thing to say about anyone. I love all the Pokemon, but unfortunately, the worst character in the game is absolutely Swalot. Swalot, he could be good, but he's really gimmicky. So for those who haven't messed with Swalot, his gimmick is to use his move called Stockpile and build up to 3 stockpiles to get better projectiles. And it could be good, like if you got a knockdown and you could just stockpile for free, that'd be great. Which you can, but then using the stockpile is a problem because if you get hit, you lose all your stockpiles. So if he could keep his stockpiles on hit, that would be fine, but he just can't. And his buttons are mostly bad. Like, he's got like maybe 2 good buttons. His frame data is not good except for stockpile, which is why he'd be good if he could keep the stockpile. But sadly, he just can't, and his damage output can't keep up, and so I don't think he's any higher than C tier. Now, the other thing is, the tier list is like, you know, the tiers are what separate the characters, not so much where they are within the tiers, but I'm doing my best to order them, so you can see it that way. But now the question is the next character a tier higher or the same tier? Now, the unfortunate truth is that there's one character that's the same tier as Swalot, and it's Combusken. Combusken is, it's just so sad. He has so much potential. He's got better buttons than Swalot and better walk speed, and that alone kind of keeps him from being the worst. He can rush down Swalot, which is something everybody can do. If he couldn't, then he'd probably be the worst character in the game. But he has no frame advantage, he has no combos, he has no approach options, so you kind of just have to play him lame and just kind of hope it works out, because you can't pressure anybody and your wake-up options are all bad. His thing is his speed and his footsie game, and if you're playing him like that, that's the best way to play him, but there are characters that can outdo him in that regard, and I think that's why he's just, I can't justify him being a higher tier than Swalot. But if Swalot kept his stockpiles, he might actually be better than Combusken, which is a sad thing to say. But now we move past the trash characters into the okay characters. We get into characters that you can actually use. Characters that will get the job done. Now, the worst of these is going to have to be Lopunny. Now, Lopunny, when I was testing out the frame data, Lopunny seemed okay on paper, but her buttons you can use similarly to Combusken's, and her damage output is better, and she has Bounce, and I think Bounce single-handedly would make her better than Combusken, because it gives her a double... well, actually, she already has a double jump. I was going to say she had a double jump with it, but she actually has a double jump outside of it, which she can use. which can then become a triple jump because you have bounce. And this can create some really wacky anti-air mix-up scenarios that are really good for Lopunny. But that is a little gimmicky, so you gotta be careful on how you use it, but it is plus on block, which means that you can go for, you know, just your traditional plus frame mix-up, throw, or attack. And that in and of itself is, I think, enough to put Lopunny higher than Combusken. And like I said, her damage output is better. She also has a couple longer range buttons than Combusken, which is notable since that, like we said, that's kind of what Combusken is supposed to do well. But unfortunately, Lopunny just kind of outdoes him in that regard. So in my opinion, if you like Combusken, you might like Lopunny. Check Lopunny out before you commit to playing Combusken, because Combusken is just really, really bad. Moving on, we have pretty much everybody past Lopunny is like okay at least and can hold their own in a couple noteworthy matchups. And the next of these is Gardevoir. Gardevoir is noticeably better than Lopunny. The projectiles, the traps, the having an air dash. There are only two characters with an air dash, and it's Gardevoir and Gengar. Having an air dash as a movement option is pretty strong because there's a lot of times where you can just mix up your jump timing and then air dash out of the corner, and that's really, really good. Now, I think Gardevoir would be better if she had like a couple better normals. Her normals aren't bad per se. She's got good range on like forward heavy punch and stuff. But she doesn't really have a great anti-air option. If she had one, I think she'd actually be a tier higher. But she doesn't, so that's a problem. But disregarding that, her zoning's good. Her damage output with the traps is also pretty good. She really frustrates Snorlax specifically, which is also noteworthy because Snorlax's damage output is so high. But against higher tier characters, which, you know, we'll get into, that can reliably get in on her, she doesn't have a ton of fast buttons to push. And a lot of her better, faster options are meant to be used at a slightly longer range, so her close range options are just kind of poor. Alright, next up on the list we have Snorlax, and we are still in B tier, ladies and gentlemen. We are still in B tier. Now, Snorlax is the premier grappler character. If you like grappler characters, Snorlax is your guy. Snorlax is the way to go for you grappler players out there. Don't let anybody fool you. Swalot. Swalot's not a grappler. Just don't pick Swalot, okay? But all jokes aside, you can pick Swalot if you like Swalot. All jokes aside, Snorlax is all about damage. Command throw damage, high combo damage. You got the wall bounce damage with Mega Punch if you're feeling it. And very, very aggressive. Some grapplers will have like lame options, like in some Street Fighter games, Zangief can lame you out with like his crouching light punch and stuff. But not so much the case with Snorlax. He's much more about the rush down, and that's not a bad thing. But his rush down tools aren't the best in the game, which, you know, we'll touch on that later. But definitely, he is the way to go for the grappler players. So grappler players, don't hesitate to pick up Snorlax. He may have some frustrating matchups, most notably Gardevoir and some of the higher tiers that we'll get to, but he's definitely an enjoyable grappler character that you grappler players will definitely enjoy. Now, we have finally moved into the high tier, and actually, there's only really one that I would consider high tier that's not top tier, and as you can see, that's Gengar. Gengar has some really, really great stuff. Now, Use-Owner players, I personally think Gengar is the way to go. But if you like the traps and projectiles type zoning of Gardevoir, you can pick Gardevoir. But I think most of Use-Owner players will definitely like Gengar better. Gengar, higher mobility. I personally think Shadow Ball is a better projectile. I haven't done a lot of extensive testing on the projectiles yet, but it does what it's supposed to do. But the best thing about Gengar, in my opinion, is actually his Okizeme. And for those who are not acquainted with fighting game terms, Okizeme is just when you attack the opponent on their wake up. And if you're unfamiliar with that too, their wake up is, you know, when you knock them down and then the character model then gets up. So that's what wake up is. You attack them right as they get to this point right here. So Gengar's is absolutely outstanding. It's crazy how good Gengar's Okizeme is. If Gengar didn't have his Okizeme, he'd probably be B tier. But he has the plus frames with standing light kick, up heavy punch. He has the command grab. He has an overhead. You're probably not really going for that very much, but it's there. And then to cap it all off, he has Shadow Ball meaty setups. And I will be covering that in a separate vid, so keep your eyes out for that. But all that just adds up to make an amazing character. His one lackluster trait is his anti-air is pretty bad. It requires a prediction to hit, and when that's the case, you can't exactly say it's a good anti-air, but it's there. He has an anti-air, so if you can get your reads right, you can really lame the opponent out, and once you get that knockdown, they're getting mixed, and that, in my opinion, makes a really good character. Alright, moving on. We've made it, everybody. The crown of the game, the cream of the crop. We made it to S tier. Now, in my opinion, there's a pretty clear order, but I could also be swayed in my arguments about this. But yeah, also, I think that with some development, Snorlax could pass Combusken. I could see B tier shifting around as well. But I don't think a lot of these characters will actually move up or down tiers. With that said, S tier. First character, third best in the game, is Blaziken. Blaziken is my personal favorite to play in this game. The rushdown, oh my goodness, the damage. Need I say more than the damage? It's out of control. His damage output is insane. Don't mess with Blaziken's damage output. And as if that weren't enough, his frame data is really good. His buttons are pretty amazing. His standing light kick's a good poke. His standing heavy kick gives you plus frames. His up heavy punch is a good anti-air if you can't land your DPs all the time. He's pretty much a full package. He's got a projectile if you need it. Like, there's a couple matchups where it's pretty good. Personally, I think the Breloom matchup is one of those. But yeah, he's got a lot of long range buttons. Good confirms. His crouching light kick is plus. Did I forget anything? I don't think so. Oh, wait, I did forget something. He can combo off his throw, too. And then his Juggle Tech mix-ups. I almost forgot about that. Juggle Tech mix-ups with Blaziken are crazy. You can instant punish with the stand heavy kick cancel instantly into DP, or you could try to bait that and go for the full combo. His Juggle Tech mix-ups are unmatched. I think his Juggle Tech mix-ups are clearly the best in the game. And they go so well with his exceptional damage output. And having a DP means he can play lame if he needs to as well. He doesn't favor it, of course. Rush down is the way to go with Blaziken when you can manage it, but when you can't, you have a backup, and that's a good thing. So, all in all, and he doesn't have a ton of weaknesses either because of it, but in my opinion, he is slightly inferior to the last two characters. Now, obviously, last two characters, we got them right there. So y'all are wondering who's the best, who's the second best, who's the best, who's the second best. Well, I'm going to show you. Second best in the game is Breloom. Breloom is crazy. Breloom has such good space control with the heavy kick seed bomb. Now, if you all haven't played the game, or if you haven't messed around with Breloom, seed bomb is sort of projectile that flies in this arc, but the heavy kick version will land on the ground and explode after a bit. Now, what that does is it basically gives Breloom a free approach into that space because no one will contest it. There's no reason to contest it, which is why most characters want to play lame versus Breloom. But when you get to approach for free and just bulldog your way in, walk and block, then you get your frame advantage buttons, and Breloom does have a couple, and she has okay. Breloom has a comboable overhead. That's outrageous. It's just outrageous. It's absolutely insane, and it's like not even minus on block. It's such a ridiculous button. The range on it is so good too. You can even catch people in the air with it. It's totally crazy. I'm sorry. I'm having trouble getting over that, but I'll try to collect myself. But yes, space control with seed bomb, ridiculous overhead, and long range buttons too, with the standing heavy punch, with the Mach Punch special move as well. And Breloom's damage is nothing to sneeze at either. If they happen to walk into the seed bomb, you can go straight into Drain Punch, and that's actually pretty big damage. Or you could go into Super if you like. What are the other main combos? Oh yeah, of course, the overhead combo. The overhead combo combos into Drain Punch as well. So if you get a hit, you're also getting health back. You guys see how crazy that is, right? You're healing health without risk. That's borderline broken, and it's part of what makes Breloom absolutely amazing. Not to mention good buttons for anti-airing as well. Up heavy punch, and has a DP as well. So Breloom is clearly top 2. I don't think Breloom will ever fall out of top 2. The other position, this S tier is probably pretty contested, but this is the way I personally think it goes. But I could easily see my opinion shifting to Breloom being the best in the game. But as of now, my current opinion is that Lucario is the best in the game. Lucario is wild. Lucario, wild for type wild. See what I did there? Anyway, all jokes aside, we'll move on from that. My apologies, everyone, for the cringe. But Lucario is different from these two in that he's much more neutral based. He has a really good projectile, and really good movement options. He's also one of, I believe it's 2 characters, I believe it's just him and Snorlax that have a run instead of dash. Now, for those who don't know the difference, forward dash is when they sort of hop forward like this, whereas a run they just keep going in this constant motion. Now, what makes Lucario's run special is that it allows him to be the only character with a short hop. Now, short hops, if you've ever played King of Fighters, you probably know what short hops are and why they're good. But for those who don't, let me explain. Short hops give you less time to be anti-aired, and they allow you to push your air button faster to hit your opponent. And that's a noticeable strength because it gives Lucario an instant 50-50 with the short hop or with his lows, and both confirm into his highest damage combo, which is really, really scary. Now, if that were all he had, he would have to kind of bully his way through, but he has really good neutral tools. Almost all his buttons are good. He has a target combo with his standing light punch, which can confirm into his damage. He has and he has really good range on his light kick buttons. He has forward moving stuff as well, and he has one of the most non-committal approaches with forward light punch canceled into either Tatsu input. What this does is, if you do the forward light punch, it lunges you forward, and then you can cancel it and just go backward if it was a bad idea. Or you can try to press forward, making them think you'll go backward. And that's scary too, because Tatsu confirms into his highest damage, B and B. He also is notable for being one of the characters with a Frame 1 Super. I wish I'd gone over this before, but the characters with Frame 1 Supers include himself, Combuskin, Lopunny, and Swalot. I will double check that and correct it in the description if I am wrong, but since I didn't go over it earlier, I think this was a good time to mention that. But yeah, Lucario, unlike Blaziken and Breloom, doesn't have as much in the way of frame advantage, but what he does have is a really, really strong neutral. Oh, and the best air-to-air in the game. Jump light kick into Tatsu confirms into his combos as well, and no one else has an air-to-air or an anti-air like that. And that's a scary, scary option, and it's one of the things that makes him super, super good, along with everything else that I mentioned. But yeah, there it is. This is the tier list as it stands. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. If you have criticisms of my tier list, feel free to mention them. I will happily ignore them, but I will also probably actually not ignore them and take them under advisement. And I'll see what I find out between now and the next tier list. But for now, that's going to be it from me. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all learned something. See you guys next time.